Cheers, guys. Welcome back. And in today's video, we are covering the second law in Frank Rudolph Young's Laws of Mental Domination. The last video, we covered the first one. This one is how to command the thoughts of others with the picture form thought command. That's what it's titled. And as we'll see as we dive into this, it's essentially, the way I would describe it is like how to implant a thought or an idea into somebody's mind. Obviously within like the Neville Goddard community and the subreddits, a lot of people talk about this in terms of as it relates to getting their SP or different situations with people, even platonic friendships, at the workplace, getting a promotion, maybe getting hired for a job. These things can apply to a lot of different things. And we'll see as some case studies and examples as we get into this, the exercises and the techniques for actually doing this. So to begin, we'll just start reading here. So the beginning of the chapter says, now you're ready for Law 2 and its exercises. Study it well because this is one of the most effective of these laws. It is one of the staggering skills of the yogi. The power of the silent word. For everyday use, you seek not a power to accomplish miracles, but a power to help you attain your goals in life. You seek a power to help you influence others, to make more money and become popular admirably. To attain it, you have to influence or command the thoughts of others. All through the ages, men have ruled others by commanding their thoughts with oratory or with the printed word. Remember Mark Antony's speech. Other men have commanded the thoughts of others just as effectively through awe-inspiring silence. The silent word can be a stronger instrument for commanding the thoughts of others than the spoken or written word. For one thing, it is undetected by the other person, yet, if skillfully directed to him, he feels its influence and interprets it as his own thought, if your projected thought benefits him. If it does not benefit him, he grows suspicious and resists your further telepathic attempts to command his thinking. He might even warn others to beware of you. So here we see he's touching on the same thing we talked about in the first part of this, which is that, and he will get into this fact that the idea of benefiting another is a prerequisite towards this becoming effective, because others are picking up on your intentions. And if you are transmitting these thoughts of ill will or ill intent towards another person, even if you are able to fool them for a short period of time, it's going to eventually be recognized for what it is, and it's going to create distrust. So the first requisite for successful thought commanding: the more worthy your thought, the more the other person gains from it. You gain too, because the other person feels attached to you and sings your praises. Your reputation grows. It's exactly what we talked about in the last video. Jesus Christ and many other mystics applied extrasensory perception for worthy purposes. You can sway the other person most easily when you want to do him good. That is why religious leaders so often effect miraculous cures. To cure others of disease is certainly to do them good. A doctor gains by healing his patient, the storekeeper and the salesman by pleasing their customers, the politician by satisfying his voters, the lover by adoring his beloved. The first requisite for successful thought commanding is to seek to do something worthwhile with your thought for the other person whose thoughts you wish to command. It will, of course, have to be something which he himself will accept as being of value to him. But this too has its problems. If you wish to break him of a bad habit, he might enjoy the habit and hang on to it. When someone becomes enslaved to anything, he falls in love with it. He might also wish to adopt the new habit, but resist it because of a misconception about it that he holds. He might wish to exercise, but is anxious about his heart. These are funny examples because this was written a long time ago. He might wish to eat more fruits and vegetables, but is convinced they are weakening and not filling. He might wish to stop smoking and drinking, but fears losing out in his social circle. You will always run into psychic walls put up against you by the person whose thoughts you wish to command. Let's go ahead and now break down the thought commanding into a series of executed steps. Practice them, and you will be amazed at the power you acquire with this law. The 4 great steps for commanding thoughts. So this is an interesting way of phrasing this, but he says here, the first step, the enslaving frame of mind. The enslaving frame of mind is the step best calculated to do a world of good to the other person. Nothing is more enslaving than the emotion of love. Those who believed in Christ loved him, and he performed miracles for them. In his hometown, where he was not highly honored, he failed to perform miracles. He, in turn, loved his followers, and this enslaved them to him. Moses, Muhammad, Allah, and Jesus' disciples also commanded the thoughts of others. An overpowering desire to help another person is the core of success in thought commanding. So this is a very interesting take on something that we've explored before, and something that I've talked about in a lot of my videos where, again, you may take issue with this word he's using here of enslaving. It's a pretty strong word he's using here, a very strong word. But when you think about, and you don't need to use that word, but if you think about wanting to influence someone, the emotion of love or the emotion of positive intent towards that person is the most powerful thing, because people will pick up on your intention towards them. And again, that harboring that sense of superiority, sense of hatred, sense of judgment, sense of envy towards another person, they're going to be able to pick up on this subtly. The more experienced somebody is, the more that they are going to then be repelled by that. And again, he's using the exact same thing that I've said too about your reputation. Your reputation will grow positively the more that you do positive things for others. It will grow negatively the more that you do negative things towards others, or influence them in a way that is negative or to their own detriment, or try to swindle or deceive or put one over somebody. So we'll get into these exercises here and the techniques that he talks about, because I think they're very interesting and can be actually very effective here. Sit alone in your room and visualize before you the person whose thoughts you wish to command. Take paper and pencil and list the thought or thoughts which you want him to accept. List beside each thought the gains which you expect him to derive from it. Be sure that the gains are not solely your gains. They have to be that person's gains, or he will sense a selfish motive behind them and withdraw outside your psychic control. If you are a salesman, for example, and hope to benefit from the sale, obliterate from your mind all thought related to your profit. Replace it with a thought of the advantages which the prospective customer will enjoy from your product. Should he purchase your product at your price, you will profit from the sale. So why keep thinking about your profit? Sell your merchandise first. Your profit or commission will automatically take care of itself. To sell the merchandise, think only of the savings and blessings which your prospect could realize from it. Visualize him realizing these blessings and feeling grateful towards you. Dedicate yourself for the moment to satisfying him. That is the enslaving frame of mind. It enslaves him to you. Do likewise if you are a professional businessman, husband, parent, or friend. To enslave anybody to you, visualize him convincingly in the act of gaining from your thought command. So again, this use of the word enslaving may be objectionable. However, if you really think about what is being expressed here, the people that do the best in business, for example, are the ones who are providing the most value to their customers. The reason that Amazon is so successful is because the value and the convenience that it has provided as a service is so far above other businesses. You know, Sears is completely out of business. Sears used to be a giant in this realm of, I guess, selling goods in a store that had so many things that you could buy. But now, with the advent of online shopping and Amazon in particular, Sears completely went out of business, right? The reason that, and one way you could think of it is that we are now slaves to convenience, I suppose, is one way of saying or looking at this, is like we are kind of just, I guess, like, yeah, it's a harsh way of describing it, but we're kind of enslaved to these corporations like Amazon, which creates convenience, or Apple. Like these corporations and businesses which have created such better products than their competitors, and are really providing that much more value to customers, us as customers, have earned our business and have pretty much, we don't go anywhere now without holding our iPhone. It's very rare. Anybody that I know uses Amazon on a constant basis, and it's very convenient, and it's powerful, and it's effective. Sometimes we need things, quickly, and they're not available in a store, and Amazon is right there with next day, sometimes even same day delivery. And the amount to which the same thing goes in relationships, a woman that is looking to enter into a relationship with a man, the women that are really good at this, they don't take the advice of these kind of manipulative dating coaches that are online, right? They actually just look to give a man what a man wants in a relationship, which is respect, admiration, encouragement, positivity, being a source of peace and strength in a man's life, not a source of drama and chaos and negativity and belittlement and all these types of narratives that are pushed, like I don't need a man, and like, the idea that her doing any cooking or cleaning is going to be somehow, women that are attractive, that just magnetically, like, men can't help but just want to be in relationships with those women, are the women that are expressing the gratitude and appreciation of the man in their life by doing those acts of service, like cooking, like cleaning, like doing his laundry, like giving him a big kiss when he gets home from work, and genuinely asking him how his day was, right? Those things, and the vice versa can be said as well. Like, oftentimes women are initially attracted to guys that are kind of, I guess, like bad boy type guys that are kind of narcissistic, whatever. But I think, like, women that have an actual healthy sense of self-esteem, the long-term relationship that they'd actually want to be in, that they actually get into, is going to be, again, a man that wants to see her growth, wants to see her succeed, like genuinely wants her success, genuinely appreciates her, genuinely cares for her. And so this act of love is really, at the end of the day, what is going to allow you to influence somebody in a positive way. These, again, short-term manipulational tactics can work in the short term, but they're not very long-term routes or paths to achieving success, whether it be in any realm that we want to influence others. So again, interesting word choice he's using, but I think that what he's saying here stands true. So the second step here is the selection. He says, you may earnestly desire to help an individual, but you may be commanding them with a thought that enrages them. You may be a doctor in which to stop your patient from smoking, but he might deeply resent such advice. You may be a parent and wish to prevent your daughter from keeping company with an undesirable man, but she may or thinks she is in love with him. You may want to sell somebody a product he needs badly, but which he cannot appreciate. These are a sample of the difficulties which you encounter every day. To command the other person's thoughts as you wish under such conditions is no easy task. The utmost tact and perseverance are necessary. Even if you do not succeed, if you do succeed, the instant you relax your thought commanding, the other person returns to their old habits. In the case of the love-blinded girl, it might be easier to transfer her to a distant school and let the absence and new interests finish her attachment for the undesirable man. If you are a salesman, you might have to resign yourself to selling your prospect something akin to what he likes. If you're a doctor, you might have to compromise and only persuade your patient to smoke less. Expect 100% success in nothing you attempt in life. The most successful man knows when to compromise. The failure never compromises but runs heading into disaster. Don't resign yourself to failure nonetheless, merely because you can't command the thoughts of some peculiar or unusual person completely. The fact you can influence them at all should be advantageous enough for you. The more skillfully you try to influence them, the better you succeed, and after repeated attempts with him, together with increased skill, you might succeed in commanding even his thoughts to a remarkable degree. Exercise for selection. Write down beside each of your command thoughts for any person exactly what reaction you would expect from him if you were to blurt out orally those thoughts to him. If they might incense him, mark that down. If his friends would scoff at him and tease him for ignoring your advice, mark that down. Don't shut your eyes to any difficulty you might meet. If you feel that he might purchase your product if you don't appear eager to sell it, mark that down. Mark down anything that might hinder your efforts to command his thoughts. Thought commanding may be more subtle, more unsuspected, and more effective than oral commanding, but you still have to affect the other person's subconscious mind to put it across. If you can't affect it enough, you can't command his thoughts. Success will be faster when you choose an easier objective which to enslave him, such as to make him like you better, to speak to you longer, to listen to you more attentively, to have more respect for you. When your skill and confidence in thought commanding grows, you can select more difficult objectives. Third step, establishing psychic union. Having put yourself into the enslaving frame of mind, you pick out the selection. You are ready to command the other person's thoughts. You're not trying to rule him with your thoughts, but to command his thinking. You don't even want him to suspect that you're about to do that would call up his defenses. You want his conscious mind to assume that the thought which has suddenly possessed him originated from within himself, that you yourself has happened to present or have accidentally entered his thoughts just then. Thought commanding is an art of extreme subtlety. The least suggestion of force, coercion, hammering, insistence, or personal effort you put on your part thwarts it. You have to establish such an absolute telepathic rapport with the other person that he obeys you with the unsuspecting, unresisting responsiveness of a subject carrying out a hypnotic suggestion. He has to obey your thought command spontaneously, without hesitation, even if he is astounded later at what he did. Exercise for establishing psychic union. Sit before your mirror in your room and pretend that your image is that of another person. Don't fill yourself with power to blast him off the scene. Just sit there calmly, breathing easily, staring kindly at him. Think to him, I want to do you all the good I can. Putting your thought into silent words suggests it better to both of you. Still better, I think out to him such self-sacrificing sentiments as, I'm ready to do anything to make you happy. Your best interests are my main concern. The statement, of course, is not strictly accurate. If you are a salesman or a businessman, your own best interests have to remain your main concern, but you can't let your subconscious telepathize that thought to the other person's mind, or he will become wary of you psychically. You want him, instead, to open the floodgates of his mind to receive your telepathic messages with the least resistance and carry them out for a while at least, like his own. Then you will have established psychic union with him. Feeling the psychic wall give. After you establish psychic union with the other person, you will feel a sudden lessening of the resistance against the telepathic pressure with which you are exerting on his mind. It feels as if you had been straining, ramming a heavy log against a wall in the dark, and that log suddenly shifted into a hole in the wall and plunged through it easily. That's how it feels when the psychic wall gives. You won't experience this feeling at first. You will even assume that your thought commands are either being wholly received or wholly rejected by the other person. If he is in your presence, you will be more aware of the psychic wall giving when it does. If you were telepathically inclined, you might have experienced this feeling before. You might have attended a public gathering and been uninfluenced by the people around you. A new face suddenly appears, and you are drawn so irresistibly to it that your heart storms in your chest and you can hardly breathe. Your tongue turns to lead, even though you are dying to talk to that person. Trembling, you feign disinterest in him. You let him or her drift again out of your life, perhaps never more to be seen, but to be eternally recollected with deep regret. The other person most likely experienced those same feelings towards you. That's why your reaction was tempestuous. Both of you felt the other person's psychic wall give, and both of you were consequently thrown into panic. Master establishing psychic union until you feel the psychic wall give, and when you feel it give, and you ought to feel it soon, you will be ready to command another's thoughts. Fourth step, commanding the thoughts of others. The actual thought command can be delivered either in a word or picture form. Both are effective, but one is more effective depending on the situations. The picture form seems more effective with strangers, and the word form more with family and regular companions. Many reasons exist for this. The stranger has not heard you talk much, if at all. He is not used to speaking or listening to you. His subconscious has not built up conditioned reflexes from past associations with you. He might even presume that you possess a different voice and speech than you do. Once you develop exceptional skill at thought commanding, it makes little difference from which form you use, but at first it would be more effective for you to project a picture form to the strangers and word form to your family and regular companions. The latter are conditioned to dealing with you in words and will absorb your word messages easier. The picture form thought command. Let the stranger pick out the well-selected enslaving goal which you wish to implant in his mind. This applies as much to a new prospect as to the new patient or client. Let your mental picture of this well-selected enslaving goal seep into his mind by thinking it out to him. Let it drift through the air or push through the floodgates of his mind, and keep it there before him, moving and alive. Don't create a dead, still picture. A living, moving picture projected from your mind of the stranger performing exactly what you wish him to do enthralls his subconscious and prevents it from closing its doors against your thought messages. A moving picture is dramatic and does not bore. Boredom cuts off psychic union, especially when used for hypnotizing. Don't project the picture long. 3 or 4 seconds are long enough. Withdraw it before the stranger's subconscious mind builds up resistance against it. Should he grow conditioned to resist your thought messages, your future efforts to command his thoughts could prove futile. Never repeat that same picture after that with the same person. Next time you project a picture form thought commanded to him, use a different one. Strive to meet the stranger you don't know quickly, and quickly alter your thought commanding to the word form, or your picture forms will soon fail to arouse him. The human mind promptly gets bored with the same thing. Next, study how Kizuma operates. So Kizuma, I'm not sure what that word is, but he goes on here to talk about witchcraft, voodoo, how people have used this for, negative purposes, right? But I'm going to cover this part here where he's talking about how to project the controlling thought form. The thought form is more effective when Jack or Jane expect to receive it from you and will approve of it. If Jack is convinced, for instance, that you wish him well and want to help him, he will be more receptive to your projection. If he distrusts you, his subconscious mind will block you out when it receives the telepathic message from you. So, at the outset, you will learn this works faster if you already know Jack well and if he approves of you. Suppose now that Jack lacks confidence in himself and that you wish to fill him with it so that he can make better use of his talents. Personal inspiration would help, but his gnawing doubts might reassail him after you two separate. Bridge this gap by intensifying the projected thought form you intend to throw at him. Stare at a picture of him or hold an article of his in your hand and visualize the scene involving him which you wish to come true. If he suffers from inferiority feelings, visualize himself bursting with confidence. If he is a pessimist, visualize him as a progressive optimist, drawing success to himself from many directions. If he doubts his ability to succeed in his undertaking, even to get a good job, visualize him doing handsomely when he applies. Now dispatch this perfectly conceived thought form into his conscious mind, project to him a mental picture so perfect that it lodges in his mind and obliterates the negativistic picture of himself which he already holds. This projected thought form, though, will not remain implanted firmly in his mind. The moment you ease your projection, the picture starts turning vague to him. You have to project it to him again a few minutes later. Project your thought form again and again for about 10 minutes. Repeat likewise next evening. Repeat it several evenings in a row. In fact, if you are reasonably certain Jack will be home, one evening's thought form projecting will not be sufficient if Jack is convinced that he is a failure or if he is a confirmed pessimist. This is really interesting because I've already used this before in the past for this exact example. I've done this for a friend of mine in order for him to secure a job, and he got the job because he was very unsure about if he was going to get it or not. Right. So he's talking about the effect of using props. He covered earlier how, in the section that I didn't read about, like dolls and things that people would use in these kind of magic rituals, and why that can help them, or using an object that belongs to that person. I don't think that's necessary. You don't have to do that, but it could be helpful if you believe in its effectiveness, then it could be effective. So he's talking about psychometrically, when you take hold of the article belonging to Jack, you know beforehand that it belongs to him and that it still retains an astral attachment to him. By taking it in your hand, you set up direct astral connection with him. He might not be conscious of it, but the connection has been set up. When you thereafter project your thought form to him, his chances of receiving it full strength are enhanced. If Jack is taking part in a debate, an athletic contest, seeking suitable employment, or taking an important examination, and you fear that he is frightened, the situation is ideal for bolstering him with kizuma, which I guess is, I don't know, the word that he's using for confidence here. You might know, for one thing, closely enough when and where the occurrence will take place. Being highly tense at the time, Jack will be most impressionable to suggestion, verbal or psychic. By projecting to him at this very time a thought form picture of him bursting with confidence of success, he stands a big chance of receiving it fully and of being decisively affected by it. It could alter his entire outlook and turn a hopeless failure into a bouncing success. In the West Indies, the author's father saw a native save his drowning brother's life from swift current by projecting to him from the riverbank a thought form which resulted in doubling his brother's strength so that he struggled superhumanly to safety. All right. Without this video, I'm going to just now really quickly give you guys these few little cases he gives here at the end, especially when it comes to. Right. There's going to be a couple ones for love and one for a job situation here. So, the ancient lover's tricks. Centuries ago, and in some localities even today, maidens snatched a few strands of hair from their beloveds and wove them into petite doll-like figures symbolic of their lovers. Next, they wove a few hairs of their own, also in figures symbolic of themselves. They set these figures facing each other as far apart from each other as the heights of their loved ones. Every day, they moved these figures nearer by an inch or two. When these figures were finally close enough to touch each other, it was believed the maiden would become a bride. The same ritual, but in reverse, was utilized to drive away an unwanted suitor or love ritual or any suspected evil. Or a love rival, or any suspected evil. Obviously, whatever success, that's the third party, right? That people talk about in the SP community. Obviously, whatever success the maidens had was not due to the petite doll-like figures, but to the thought forms which they helped the maidens to project. The thought forms, of course, were then aided by the psychological and psychometrical results of interweaving of the hairs. Right, again, we see that it's about your belief. That's what makes these kinds of rituals work here. So Another case is the Oriental lover's customs. Mirza yearned to influence Kafir. She called up his image in her mind and then made love to it. When she kept up the practice steadily, it was difficult for Kafir to resist her. Mirza could even draw to herself an unknown man from out of the world at large. She merely concentrated upon the image of her ideal, and in due course of time he came along. This is called spirit clairvoyance. It is no mystery. Many of us have done likewise without even realizing it. The created thought form drifts through space until it finds the proper human reception. It sets up rapport immediately between the two persons and attracts them to each other. Very, very interesting stuff here, guys. I've had some experiences which are pretty, line up with this pretty perfectly. So, couples wearing twin rings containing each other's hair have been bound inseparable to each other. Okay. Here's an exercise, another exercise for love here. You are a woman and want to win Albert Bradford for yourself. Procure a picture or article of his, if you can do so without resorting to illegal or undignified procedures. Otherwise, do without it. Sit or lie down alone in your darkened room. Close your eyes and visualize Albert as having just retired, but not yet fallen asleep. That is the best time to project most psychic power. Create in your mind the picture of yourself which you would like to implant in Albert's mind. Visualize yourself dressed glamorously or enticingly, looking youthful and trim and possessing a friendly and enchanting manner. Recreate this picture in your mind until it is so perfect in every detail that you actually see yourself standing before you in the dark. Project this thought form into the conscious mind of Albert and hold it there for a second or two. Then withdraw it, blank out your mind for a minute or two, or until you feel rested enough for another projected, and project the picture to him again. Repeat it the next evening, but be reasonably certain that Albert Bradford is in home in bed, or your projections will lose some authority in trying to find him first. They will fail altogether unless you've developed extraordinary psychic power following long practice if he happens to be in the company of another woman who delights him, or if he is having a good time with his associates. If you repeat this projecting for several evenings in a row, however, your chances of catching him at home as he retires are strong. Advice: don't project yourself to him every evening looking exactly the same time, or looking exactly the same. If you happen to contact him more than once, he would grow used to the picture. He does not recognize the picture as a thought form of yours, of course, but as his own thinking about you. This is what makes it effective. Therefore, project your picture to him each evening adorned with a different but flattering coiffure, gown, slippers, etc. Glamorize yourself, but accompany it with a personality that makes Albert Bradford feel at home. Many men fear glorified women, but none fear the woman who makes them feel at home. That's exactly what I was saying earlier, guys, about women in particular. Men love women that make them feel appreciated, respected, and, as this person said, at home, and really safe and at peace, right? The feeling of being at home is a feeling of peace. You know, men go out, fight their battles with the world. They want to come back home to a woman that makes them feel that peace and that they can rest and relax in her presence. So exercise 2. Suppose you want Mr. Darby, your boss, to promote you or raise your wages faster. In this case, you have a better chance of getting a temporary hold of an article of his, such as his pencil. Don't turn into a petty thief, though, or it can because this can be effective without this, is basically what he's saying. Just create a more perfect thought form without a near perfect thought form. Anyways, your projection won't bring you the hoped rewards. Sit in your room or lie in your bed as in the previous exercise. Visualize Mr. Darby at home going to bed. Now, try to reach his conscious mind. Unless he is burdened with business worries, you might attain rapport with him swiftly. Create, next, a flattering picture of yourself in his office working for him and implant it in his mind. Visualize yourself in a position requiring speed and efficiency to perform it with breathtaking dispatch. Immediately follow it up by implanting in his mind the apprehension that you might consider searching for a better position, and that he would face the disheartening task of training a new employee who might turn out to be less efficient than you. Since most people dislike changing their habits, such an apprehension will find fruitful ground in which to grow. As in exercise 1, Project your thought form only for 1 or 2 seconds. Rest for a minute or two and project it again. Do so several times. Repeat it the next day. This time, though, visualize a different efficiency scene. Depict yourself as being equally valuable in another phase of your job. Don't let him get used to seeing you performing the same task again and again and of losing his initial enthusiasm. Make him feel that you are indispensable to him in so many different aspects of your job that he cannot afford to let you go. Caution, when you face Mr. Darby the next day, give him no indication that you have been engaging in such thought form projections to him. Make up similar exercises of your own for other worthy ends, but perform them in the same pattern as described above. It goes without saying that you have to live up, in great part at least, to these thought forms in order to make them achieve their ends. You cannot be an unattractive, ill-groomed woman or an inefficient, unreliable worker and depend upon thought forms to delude your man or boss. When you combine thought forms with reality, however, or as much as possible, your chances of achieving your ends with them will be tremendously enhanced. Wow, this is powerful, and this just lines up exactly with what I talked to you guys about on this channel, is that embracing the physical as well. Embracing, like he says, you need to also do your work as it should be done. Be a reliable worker. You cannot be an unattractive, ill-groomed woman or a woman that is spiteful and has all of these other characteristics while just working in this thought wave in the 4D, but not actually backing that up with the 3D embodiment of that. So otherwise it's not going to work at anywhere near its true capacity. And eventually your boss will catch on to the fact that you're not working well, or your boyfriend or husband, as it may be, will catch on to the fact that you're not appreciating of him. So these exercises are very, very interesting. And again, going back to the very crux of this whole thing is really this idea that you are imparting, that you are expressing goodwill to those that you are looking to influence. And by doing that, combined with these other things, you're allowing yourself to be transparent, as I spoke about in the previous video. You're not allowing little things to catch on to you or to become too attached or whatever. You're just expressing this goodwill towards others in this way, and then allowing kind of like the chips to fall where they may, I suppose. But really, when you are expressing that goodwill towards other people, they pick up on that, and telepathically you are able to, or in person, able to influence them much better than if you were not truly having positive intentions towards another person. And it's interesting that he used those other examples at the beginning of the book, like, the example of using somebody like Jesus, or you can see that, again, in these businesses, which are very successful and do really well, a lot of the time it's because they actually are providing a better service. People want to stay in like a nice apartment, right? Why do they pay more for that? Well, because the apartment is actually upkept, and there's nice amenities and nice things, and the tenants' interests have been taken into account, right? They're providing a higher quality service. Or in the case of a relationship or a job, you are doing better quality work. You are showing up better for your partner in a way where, of course, now through the law of correspondence, through the laws of reciprocity, that's going to come around full circle. So very interesting techniques here. I'd be very curious to hear what your guys' thoughts are on these below. And as you can see, like a lot of people that talk about influencing people or third parties or getting rid of that, with SPs and things like that, there are actual techniques which people have been using for a long time that have been used for this. Now, you don't necessarily, like he said, need to use these rituals in this ritualistic manner, but you can simply use the visualization process to, like he says, kind of implant these thought seeds in other people. And like I said, I've had personal experience with this as well. It's like when I've had positive intentions, I've visualized a scene of my friend getting a job. He got the job. Not to say that I'm the only thing that's acting in that. Like, he also had to fill out his resume properly, and I actually helped him with his resume as well. He also had to, submit it and go into the interview and show up in a way that communicated his value to the company and that he was a good option. And the same can be said when it comes to relationships. Again, you're going to have to show up with actually being a good prospective partner. You're not going to be able to just do this visualization scene and then show up with, crappy behaviors, like he said, being ill-groomed, not taking care of yourself right. All of that's going to have an impact on whether or not this stuff works for you guys. So that being said, guys, much love as always. Drop this with a like. Like I said, drop me with a comment and hit me with a subscribe if you've not done so already. And I will be seeing you guys soon in the next video. I may go ahead and just keep on going through this because I love some of the techniques and the different kind of perspective that we're getting through looking at these laws here, because they're touching on the same topics that we've talked about a lot on this channel, but coming at them from another interesting perspective here. So that being said, guys, I will see you guys in the next video.